Hey, way cool friends and family. It's Chef Mary here. And we are super, super excited to have you guys join us again today for another episode of Cooking with Way Cool. So today we are going to do something kind of fun. Lynn and I are going to play Way Cool, What's in Your Fridge Fun Chopped. I don't know, that's a very long title. We're working on the title. Because we're both here in the building today, practicing our 6 feet of social distancing and still kind of just taking phone calls and finding cool ways to bring Way Cool to you guys in your home. She gets to be our Chopped host today. And so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna turn the camera over to her, and so she's in charge of the camera. And we are going to look at what's in our refrigerator here at the Way Cool Cooking School on stuff we need to use. And we would like you to play along at home. So this is kind of a fun and integrated way to do this here. So we're gonna show you all of the items we have, and we're gonna bounce some ideas off of you, and you, as the viewers, get to decide what we're making for dinner today. I'm a little nervous, but I'm very, very excited. So I'm gonna turn the camera around and I'm gonna introduce you to Lynn Elliott here. Hey, Lynn.
Hi.
All right, so this is gonna get kind of strange. Lynn is, I'm also gonna flip the camera around one more time. And as you can tell, we are really, really good cooks, but we are not the best video producers. So we're just having fun with you guys today. Okay, so we're gonna turn this around and I'm gonna give the camera to Lynn.
All right, I got it.
All right, so we are in our kitchen here and we have got a lot of
Wait,
fun
Mary,
things.
because
Oh.
you know, like you said, good cook. I have to
Okay.
flip it now so it's looking at you, correct?
Yes.
All right,
Do-
hold on, everybody. Here we go.
All right.
Perfect.
So now we're in here together. Lynn is hosting, the appropriate 6 feet away from me.
Yes.
Which is great because that's generally how we work all the time, is 6 feet away from each other. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna look into our refrigerator and we're gonna look and kind of pull some things from our pantry. And you guys, our viewers, are gonna get to decide today and kind of play along and play Chopped with us. This is a very fun game I like to play at home and with my friends. And this is a fun game you can play with your families when you're creating dinner too. So the first thing we're gonna look at, and the first thing when you make a meal at home, you kind of look at is your inventory. What do I have that I need to cook with today, or what do I wanna pull and thaw from the freezer to cook with today? And so I always start with proteins, because that kind of decides where your meal is gonna go. And so for our proteins today, we have found in our fridge and freezer a bag of frozen shrimp. We have some regular bacon, and we have 2 boneless, skinless chicken breasts. And so these are much like the chicken breasts that you buy at the grocery store. This will feed 4 people. And so that's kind of where we're at for proteins. The next thing I look at is what fresh produce we have in our refrigerator. And so we're gonna open up the fridge here. We're gonna take a look together on the items that we have in our refrigerator today. This fridge door looks a lot like my fridge door at home, which means I have a ton of condiments. And condiments are great and a great way to add different flavors to the food and a lot of variety to maybe the same bag of boneless, skinless chicken breasts that you might have in your freezer. So we have some Asian hot sauces, some regular hot sauces, we have some jams, we have some Worcestershire sauce, looks like we have some sun-dried tomatoes and some pesto in there. And then we've got some cool cheeses too. We have some feta, some goat cheese, some Parmesan cheese. We have the leftover filling from our ravioli that we made the other day. Happy National Ravioli Day, for real this time, it is today. And so you can check out that video too. We've got some eggs, we've got some Mexican crema, which is like Mexican sour cream. We have mayonnaise, we have regular sour cream, we got milk, and then we've got some bell peppers, some green onions, some lemons, some limes, and then kind of your go-to, it's your mirepoix staples, onions, celery, carrots, and then we have some garlic too. So kind of looking at all of this, the next thing I kind of go to when you know in your head what you've got in your fridge and what you've got to work with is to incorporate, 1, the foods your family likes, and 2, what do you have around your house maybe already to incorporate maybe new flavors into some standards. And so from what I call like the basic meal, which it would be broiled or pan fried or baked chicken breast with some kind of starch and a vegetable. That's kind of our base that we're gonna go off of today, and we're gonna look at a couple different ways that we can play that up with your help. And so the next thing I'm gonna look at is I'm gonna show you guys, and Lynn's gonna show you all of the seasonings we have available to us. So we didn't pull all the spices at the Way Cool Cooking School, because that is a china cabinet full. But we do have, and I did pull things that are found in a lot of your homes that are in your spice racks at home, from Italian seasonings to garlic, salt, paprika, cumin, taco seasonings, chili powder, ginger, and then I kind of pulled some other kind of weird things that we have. So I have some leftover ginger here, real ginger root, and some dried ginger. I have about a cup of cornmeal that we found in our pantry, some honey, and then probably enough baby potatoes for like 2 to 3, maybe 4 people. So this is kind of what we got going on in our fridge. And so now is when you can start percolating your creative ideas and how we're gonna make this work. And so if you're feeding a family of 2 to 4, I'm thinking like, okay, I've got 2 chicken breasts ready to go. They're thawed. And if they're thawed and they have been frozen, you'll wanna use them. So we're definitely gonna incorporate our thawed chicken breast today. So that's gonna be our main protein. Maybe we'll use some shrimp and bacon a little bit later, but I'm not really quite sure about that. Now here is where I need your help. Friends, play chop with me. We have enough ingredients here that we can make some really, really awesome. It looks like I have some Italian inspired ingredients and spices. I have some Asian Italian ingredients and some spices, and I have some really cool Latin spices and ingredients here in my fridge today. And so I need you guys to write in and let us know here, what should we make? Should we make Italian? Should we make Asian? Or should we make Latin flavors? So type in what your thoughts are. We're gonna give it a little look here, and we're gonna go with whoever's the third comment, because I can't see the comments right now. So,
I can.
Okay.
So our first one is like a chicken and shrimp carbonara.
Ooh.
That sounds yummy. And we're still waiting. It looks like some other people are typing here, so
Okay.
we'll just give it another minute. I mean, my like quick and easy meal, I think I would just choose, like if I was just gonna be feeding my family tonight, I would take those chicken breasts and I would kind of split them open and put that stuffing that we had from yesterday in there. Maybe take some breading and kind of put it on the chicken breasts and pan fry them, and then take that yummy sauce that you made and kind of put that on top. I think that would be delicious.
So Lynn's going Italian tonight.
I'm feeling Italian. I have somebody else saying Latin food, so now we're waiting for a third
Okay,
one.
Latin
We'll have to
food.
see who the third one is
Okay,
that comes in with an
lucky
idea.
comment number 3 here up on the list. And we'll figure out.
What are you
that is
feeling
here.
like? What would you like to make?
Well, I made Spanish chicken at home last night.
Yes,
So,
I saw your picture.
I took leftover like olive mix and I mixed it with some Parmesan cheese, and I opened up the chicken like you said. I pounded out a chicken breast really, really flat and put all of the olive mix inside of it, and then rolled it up and then covered it in mayonnaise and Italian breadcrumbs and baked it off that way.
Yum.
So it was like shake and bake, like old school shake and bake in my kitchen. All right. What do we got? More typing?
I think that the next one is somebody has said Asian. So,
Asian
and
food.
I know you love cooking Asian food.
Oh, I do love cooking Asian food and Latin food and Italian food. Okay, so we're gonna see what we can make here with our chicken breast using all of these kind of fun flavors. Okay. Instantly, my brain, because I'm an Archer fan, if you're an Archer fan, you will get this. If not, it's just silly. It's Friday, which means it's Stir Friday. And so I think I'm gonna take the chicken and I'm gonna cook it up into a Asian Stir Friday dish. I'm gonna use some shrimp, I'm gonna use some chicken, I'm gonna use a bunch of cool Asian ingredients and the vegetables that we have and whip up a great meal.
Hey, just so you know, your mom's watching, and she wants to remind you that it's Fish Friday. Maybe you could do the same things with some kind of cod instead of chicken or something.
This
if
is
you're
an excellent thing. Yes. Thank you, Mom, for keeping me on the straight. And that's why I'm going to show you the shrimp alternative for fish stir Friday, the fish alternative. All right, cool. So what I'm going to do here is, because this is frozen, I'm going to take and I'm going to give this bag of shrimp to Lynn, and she's going to take and she is going to thaw out a little bit, a portion for maybe 2 people, so we can kind of take a look what that looks like. And this is cool too. This is actually a great comment. Thanks, Mom. Because in your household now, you have become a short line cook for your family. And you may have a special of the day, but that does not mean that certain people in your family only eat certain things. You may have vegetarians in your family, but your whole family isn't vegetarian. You may have people in your family that just hate chicken. And so let's make this recipe in a way that we can use both proteins and still create the same dish at the end. So the first thing that I'm gonna do here today is I'm gonna take and I'm gonna kind of put the things I wanna saute up in the pan. And then I'm gonna cook the shrimp separately and I'm gonna cook the chicken separately so that we can incorporate those proteins at the end. The cool thing about using shrimp at home is that shrimp takes hardly any time at all to cook. And with Asian food in general, it's about 90% prep and 10% cooking when you're cooking things. And the general rule for me, because I do love Asian food, is that I kind of remember that when you're cooking Asian food and doing things like stir fries and things that you want to cook fast, is long and lean saves the day. So when we're cutting our onions and we're cutting up our bell peppers here in a second, we want to cut them into long, lean pieces so that there's more surface area so that they cook up really, really fast. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to go grab some onions and stuff out of the fridge. So we've got our bell peppers and our green onions, and we had a half an onion in there.
Yeah, it's down in the bottom.
All right, cool.
I'll be your sous chef.
Thanks. Okay, so we're gonna take and I'm gonna cut open. I've got an orange pepper and a red pepper. Another fun way to incorporate your family and like cooking is color. I love cooking with color. It makes the food look more exciting, which makes your family more excited about eating it, and the vegetables. And this is a cool thing for this dish too, is that depending on what age your family is in the home, obviously if you have a older group of kids and teenagers, you sit down as parents and make your kids make this dish for you. If you have younger kids, you can kind of assign different tasks based on the ingredients on what certain age groups can cut up to help you with the stir-fried dish too. All right, so I'm gonna cut some peppers. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut down on this pepper, and I'm gonna have Lynn kind of do a zoom here so you can kind of see what we've got going on our page. So what I've done is I've cut around the core of this pepper so that I'm not wasting a lot of the pepper. I'm just got the seeds there. And then I'm gonna do the same thing with this red pepper. I'm gonna cut down from the top. And again, I'm using the claw and I'm kind of holding my knife, and this is just a small utility knife. I'm gonna hold it down here and I'm just gonna cut the core of that pepper right out. There, that way. And I'm gonna cut these peppers into thin strips so that they cook really quickly. So instead of cutting it with the bouncy side up, I call it the bouncy side because your knife doesn't really want to cut through the skin. Flip the pepper over and just cut. And depending on your knife, you can cut straight down, or you can kind of use it as like a pencil and draw through to get your clean cuts. And if you have smaller hands, you can take the pepper and you can take and line it up and use the heel of your hand to press down. And all of these ways, either using the claw or pressing down with the heel of your hand to chop through the vegetables, is gonna be the safest way so that we don't end up with any nicked fingertips or lost manicures in this process. And so we're just gonna take and keep chopping. Now these are bell peppers, so they are not spicy. If you like spicy food, I love spicy food, and you have like a jalapeno or a serrano pepper that you could incorporate into this, you completely can. If you do not have those fresh hot peppers, you could use a can of chilies, would totally work for this from your pantry. I like to have a can of chilies at home just to incorporate into a lot of stuff because I don't always have fresh hot peppers at my house, and chilies work really, really well. I'm also taking these larger chunks of the pepper membrane and I'm cutting those out of there. It's not that they're inedible, they totally are. It just makes for like a cleaner stir fry here. So I'm gonna take and I'm gonna cut those up, and that looks like enough for me. So here's the situation I have here. That is enough peppers for the meal, but I have all these peppers left. And so what you can do is that this is a great snack item to have around the house. And so instead of wrapping those peppers up into little plastic wrap and having it sit in my fridge until I forget about it, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just take it and I'm gonna continue to cut up this pepper into some snack size strips that I can either incorporate into cooking later on this week if I want to, because they're gonna already be cut up and they're okay, so I could dice them if I wanted them diced later. Or if I just want like a cool snack, you have pepper strips that you can dip into
Hummus?
hummus. Oh, I was gonna say Minnesota's favorite condiment, ranch dressing.
That
but
too.
Hummus, obviously, that totally works too. Okay, so this is kind of our extra stuff. So I'm gonna put that on the plate and we'll talk about other fun things we can do with that. One of the main things is kind of when you're working from home and you're cooking more meals, I always try to like think of my kitchen as it's very in restaurant. And just like restaurants, we're trying to reduce food waste. In your home, you want to reduce food waste so that you're not throwing food and ultimately throwing money away. And so we've got our peppers here, and so I'm gonna put these over on this board as our completed items. I have a half of an onion left over here. And I'm gonna take and we're gonna dice that up, or I'm sorry, not dice it up, slice it up here really quick.
Is that a towel for you too?
Oh, thanks. Grab a paper towel, grab my kitchen towel here, nice clean towel. We're gonna take and we're gonna cut this up. Now different knives have different jobs, and my favorite knife in my kitchen is just my multi-purpose utility chef knife. It's the knife I go to the most. These are really handy for smaller fingers, these kind of smaller utility knives that chop, dice, and slice. Paring knives, A shout out to Chef Tom if you're watching. Chef Tom loves his paring knife. It's his go-to knife. I think we all feel comfortable kind of with certain knives in our kitchen, and I would say that like use the knife that is you're most comfortable with for sure. So what I did here is I cut the top of the onion off, and I cut this into slices. I'm gonna take and I'm gonna peel off this outside layer here, but I cut it first because it's easier to peel after you cut it. And I'm gonna take, and now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use my knife and I'm just gonna cut it into thin slices. And these slices are probably about 1/4 of an inch thick for our stir fried dish. Now what I forgot to grab, Lynn, here with our oils here, because I always have it at my house, I don't know if you have it at your house, but it's just plain vegetable oil.
Yeah, let me grab some for you.
All right, so we've got our onions here and they're cut up, and so we're gonna put those over here. And let's see what other vegetables we came up with today. Oh, we've got some green onions. Love, love, love me some green onions, or scallions, depending on where you grew up. They're the same thing. I'm gonna take and I'm gonna peel off this extra stuff on our green onion. And we're gonna do that here, like kind of the wet, bendy stuff. Now, green onions are great because they add a lot of color to what you're doing. And then they also add like crunchy texture and that great onion flavor. And so to cut these, like Asian stir fry style, remember I said long and lean is the way to go. Instead of cutting them straight on and cutting them that way, I'm gonna cut them on what they call the bias, which means at an angle. And so I'm gonna take and I'm gonna line my knife up here and cut off that root, and then I'm gonna just kind of cut long pieces to get those cool, long, oblique cuts on this pepper, or I'm sorry, on this green onion. As I'm cutting here, I'm stopping to cut where it gets kind of floppy and bendy and like brown. And I would say like, if you would be upset if you got it at a salad in a restaurant, that is where you stop cutting. Don't serve yourself that food, all right? So we're gonna take that, this could, all of these little extra scraps and things like that are really great ways to incorporate into chicken like stocks and stews and things like that when you're making your own stocks. That's a whole nother class. We'll get to that later on. And so I'm gonna take, for right now, I'm just gonna get them out of our way. So I've got some green onions here, and so I'm gonna put those in there. I'm gonna cut up one more green onion because I want some of this green onion to go right into the stir fry, and then I'm gonna keep some of this green onion to go on top of our stir fry as an extra kind of garnish here at the end. So I'm taking and I'm gonna kind of separate the lighter green and the white parts of the onion and the green parts of the onion so that they go in at different times into my stir fry here really quick. Now if you'll notice, I'm cutting up all the vegetables first. And this is really kind of important as you are creating and maintaining a safe and clean kitchen, is you may not have more than one cutting board. We have I feel
Way
like
too many.
thousands
Yeah.
of cutting boards to clean here. But I like to have a vegetable cutting board and a protein cutting board, but I wanted to show you that even if you just have one cutting board, you can control cross-contamination in your kitchen by cutting up all of those vegetables first and having them ready to go, and then cutting up your proteins. And so there's one more vegetable that I wanted to cut, and that is our carrots, to put some carrot
I put a
pieces in
peeler right over there for you too.
Oh, brilliant. And this is why it's good to cook with your family and have a team. So when you're in the middle of cooking dinner, you can be like, get me the peeler. And so to peel this, I'm gonna take and I'm gonna lay the onion or the carrot down on the board, and I'm gonna start closest to my fingers and I'm gonna peel away from me. This is a really, really great tip, especially as if you have, this is a job to give to maybe one of your younger chefs in your household. You don't wanna peel toward your thumb. It also is harder to peel up in the air than it is just directly on your cutting board. So we're gonna take, and then I flip the carrot over when I've got that side peeled, and I just peeled this side here. And so we're gonna take and we're gonna peel that. Now there's two ways to do this carrot, and I kind of wanted to show you both ways because they're both really, really fun. If you have a sous chef, if you will, in your house that is maybe not knife ready, but totally peeler ready, here's what you do. You let them just keep peeling. And so if you just peel these pieces, you will get long, lean pieces for this stir fry that you can just put right into your stir fry dish. And because they're so thin and long and lean, they will cook up really, really fast. And so we're gonna use some of our carrots this way. And we're gonna do that. The other thing that we're gonna do is I'm gonna show you, if you do have the knife skills kind of that you wanna practice here, again, we're still thinking long and lean. So I'm gonna cut the end of the carrot off that I'm not gonna use. And I'm gonna take, and in the same way I cut that green onion, I'm gonna cut this carrot into as thin, long, and lean pieces as I can here. Again, probably about like a 1/16 of an inch or a 1/4 of an inch thick as I'm cutting up with these vegetables. Now right here, I have, generally speaking, the peppers, the onions, the carrots, and all of this These are also dishes that I could put together and very easily turn into a Latin inspired dish as well, just depending on the spices. And so I'll show you how to flip the dish when we get to that point too. All right, so I've got
Can I
all of-
stop you for a second?
Yeah.
Because I was looking at your cutting board now, and you can see that the vegetables have stained the board.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter how much you try and just wash that with soap and water, that is not going to come out. It's going to stay that way. The only way you can get those colors out is to put bleach on your cutting board, let it sit for a couple of minutes, and then boom, it's perfectly white and clean
So
again
not only is it white
afterwards.
and clean, but it's also sanitized.
Correct.
And in my house, if you don't want to cut on this when it comes to your chicken, you do one of these.
Ta-da!
Ta-da! All right, so now I'm gonna use my protein, which means that I've cut up all the vegetables. I'm just gonna kind of observe here and make sure that I've got that all underway. The other thing I'm gonna incorporate as far as like vegetables and greens is we have some cilantro that I'm gonna add later. I know cilantro is not everybody's jam. By like some people eat it and it tastes like soap. If it does, don't use it. Obviously you probably don't have it in your house. The other thing is a good reminder, and I get reminded here all the time when I come up with fun recipes and cooking like that, my kitchen at home is different than a lot of different kitchens at home, which means I love cilantro in Asian food. This is my parsley in my house. I always have cilantro. Some people don't. But you probably have dried cilantro that you can incorporate into the dish from your spice rack that's been sitting in your cabinet unused for a while, that you can incorporate into your dish too. So we're just gonna set that off to the side and we're gonna cut up our chicken. So with the chicken, when I'm cutting proteins and anytime I'm cutting chicken, I try to keep as clean as possible, which means I try to have a clean hand and like a chicken hand. So if I need to like do anything that I still need to grab stuff, I'm not grabbing it with like salmonella fingers. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take my chef knife and I'm gonna kind of line it up and again, use the claw and I'm gonna cut very, very thin strips so that this cooks up really, really fast when we get it into the pan. I like big pieces of chicken in my stir fry so that it all kind of like all the ribbons kind of dance together in the pan. If you have, if you want smaller bites, you can cut them up into very, very small pieces as well. I'm gonna do the same thing with the second chicken breast is I'm gonna cut it and I'm cutting what they call against the grain, which means that as like the kind of grain goes one direction, I'm cutting on the opposite direction of that. And that allows the chicken to kind of sear up and the structure of the protein itself cooks a little bit better. And so we're gonna take it and we're gonna do that. So now I have my chicken ready to go on my chicken board, which is gonna stay my chicken board. It ain't gonna be anything else now, this is just the chicken board. And with my clean hand, I'm gonna show you here, we have our shrimp for two. So it's like 3 jumbo shrimp per person. If you love shrimp, obviously you would make way, way more shrimp of this, but we're just like making a light lunch here. And so we're gonna do this. If you'll notice that the shrimp still have their tails on, and I like to remove the tails before I eat shrimp, but I like to keep them on because they kind of act as like little shrimp timers in your pan to show you when your shrimp is cooked. And so you can take them off right away. These have already been deveined, so I don't have to worry about that. And what that is that the actual back, there's like a little black line that runs on the back of the shrimp. Here, I'll show you with my clean finger because I gotta wash my hands anyway. And so there's like this little kind of, right now it's been cut open and split out. There's usually like a little black line that runs down the shrimp. That's the little vein of the shrimp. You wanna take that out. Not only does it kind of taste sandy, but it's like the filtration system of that little shrimpy. And you just don't need that in your cooking. Doesn't provide anything very healthy for you.
One other thing, just when you are making dishes and you're going to be cooking shrimp, make sure that you don't buy pre-cooked shrimp. And you can definitely tell the difference between pre-cooked and uncooked because the pre-cooked is going to already be pink. And as shrimp cooks, it turns pink in color. But if you use cooked shrimp in your dish, it just tends to get tough as you're waiting for everything else to cook in the dish.
Okay, I'm back.
You're back.
Pans are clean, de-chickened. I'm gonna take and I'm gonna move this so I'm not tempted to cut with this into the sink. So I know that that's a chicken knife and I don't wanna do that. And I've got our proteins, we've got our vegetables. I'm gonna not use the bacon today. We'll use that for a different segment.
Yep.
I got that over there. I'm gonna put my carrot back into my produce bin. Now, all of this can be just eaten as a stir fry itself. But if you wanted to incorporate a starch, we could cook up some rice with it. And so 1 cup of rice turns into 2 cups of rice when you cook it, and that would be enough for a serving size for 3 to 4 people. Or what I'm really liking is that like as people are very excited about buying all their traditional pastas at the grocery store, we're left with maybe some alternative pastas at the grocery store to choose from, and rice noodles would be awesome with this stir fry. Ramen noodles, you could add some chicken broth to all of this and turn it into like a ramen soup too. Like the ideas are just gonna keep coming out of me. So don't need to take notes. This video will be there later. But there's a lot of different variations. Okay, I got 2 pans going here. One pan is gonna be my shrimp pan and one pan is going to be my chicken pan. And so the first thing I'm gonna do in our pans is I'm gonna take and I'm gonna start with some vegetable oil here. I'm gonna have Lynn move the cameras because we're gonna be mostly at the pans now and grabbing stuff as we go here. The other thing that this is great for and why I love Stir Fridays, it is a 1-pan meal unless you're incorporating multiple proteins. And so you're not washing 7 different dishes, you're washing just the 1 dish. Okay, so I probably put into this larger pan maybe 2 to 3 tablespoons of vegetable oil, and it's enough to coat the bottom of the pan. Because we are like stir frying this, it's gonna have a little bit more oil and fat in it than some of our other recipes might recommend. You don't need a pool of fat though, because these are non-stick pans, which means that I don't need like to fill it all the way up. And so I'm gonna take and we're gonna do that. And then when you're cooking with this, you wanna make sure that your pans are hot before you start adding stuff in, because we wanna hear the sizzle. We wanna like make that get all like we wanna hear it as we're cooking it. Some other kind of things that I'm gonna incorporate into this now as far as like seasonings and things like that to make it taste like Asian food is to the oil, the first thing I'm gonna add is Chef Lynn's secret weapon for Asian food. It's what makes homemade Chinese food taste like takeout Chinese food, and that is sesame oil. And so we have sesame oil in our pantry, so we're gonna go grab that. You could add chili oil to your vegetable oil to flavor your oil, and a little dabble do ya, as they say.
So we have white virgin and we have the dark.
And pure sesame. Okay, pure sesame oil. Yes, it totally just like smells like Asian food. I'm just gonna put about 3 or 4 little drops in there, or the equivalent of maybe 1/4 of a teaspoon. And let's do the same thing for our shrimps, because that's gonna flavor our shrimp too. All right, so we've got the sesame oil in there, and we're heating up our oil here, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna start adding things into these pans in the order that they cook. So the thing that cooks the longest needs to be in the pan first. And so what we're gonna do here is we are going to take and we are going to saute up and start our chicken first into this pan. So I'm gonna take here and I'm gonna add our chicken. And how I'm gonna test the chicken and to see if our pan is hot enough is I'm gonna grab a fork and I'm gonna grab a piece of chicken and I'm just gonna set it in the oil and I'm gonna see if it bubbles. If it doesn't bubble, the oil is not hot enough yet. And so it looks like we have a little bit of ways to go before that is gonna be stir fry ready so that that can saute in the pan. And I'm also gonna adjust the heat and maybe crank it up here a little bit.
So Mary, a lot of times when you're making chicken, recipes will tell you to make a marinade of your, marinate your chicken or shrimp or whatever. What would be some things you could marinate with?
So if I was gonna marinate this chicken ahead of time, I would use kind of the 5 principles of the flavors when you're cooking, especially when you're cooking Asian food, is you want all of the components of like sweet, salty, spicy, sour, umami, which is kind of like that like mushroom nutmeggy, kind of like what's that other flavor? That's the umami flavor that you're looking for. And so you could put that into a marinade, or if you're like cooking like we are, which is like we're cooking in under 45 minutes, the rest of this meal will be done in like 15 minutes, I'm gonna take those ingredients and I'm gonna turn that into my sauce for my stir fry and add it into the pan as I go. So you can make it ahead of time and you can stick your chicken in a Ziploc bag and do that. The other thing I like to add is if you have limes, is add lime zest, ginger. If you have sesame seeds, you can add some sesame seeds in there. Do we still have some black and
Yeah, I
white
pulled them
sesame
up for you.
seeds? Oh, perfect. We got some sesame seeds. Okay, the oil's becoming aromatic, and we don't want the oils to get too hot, but it's bubbling. So we're gonna take here, and now we're gonna add in our chicken pieces into this mix, and we're gonna start those cooking. I hope you can hear that sizzle. It's one of like the best noises in the world. I love the sizzle. All right, we're gonna take and I'm gonna get them evenly distributed around the pan. Otherwise, you don't end up with stir fry pieces. You end up with one blob of chicken. So we're gonna take and we're gonna put those in there. And that means my shrimp pan is hot enough too. So we're gonna take here and we're gonna add our shrimp into the pan. And we're just gonna take and I'm gonna put those in there. Oh yeah. And so that's gonna sizzle up there too a little bit. And I'm gonna grab my spatula and I'm gonna move that chicken around. And when you're stir frying, you wanna take and you wanna keep things dancing. You wanna keep them moving in the pan so that they do not overcook or burn in any spot. I'm gonna adjust the heat down just a little bit now that I got them in there. Because we cut our chicken pieces so thin, it does not take long for them to get like almost all the way cooked. And you'll notice like right away I can start flipping them over because they're starting to show color. So I don't know, Lynn, if you can like zoom in on that
Yep.
kind of that golden brown action that's happening for the edges of the chicken. Is that you want to kind of test one of your bigger pieces, and once they start to show that color, you can start to flip them over in there. All right, and then the shrimp, I'm just going to give them a little wiggle. And as you can see with the shrimp, those little timers that they have on them, those tails, they right now are telling me that they're starting to turn pink. So I'm going to just take and I'm going to start to flip those over as well inside that pan. It is very easy to overcook shrimp because it's a protein and it's seafood, and people get kind of weird about that. Like you definitely don't want to eat raw shrimp, but you don't want them to be like little rubber balls either. And so that's been about a minute, and then we flip those, and I'm gonna let them go another minute and a half, and they're gonna go from like very kind of translucent to these white opaque shrimp, and I'm just gonna keep them wiggling in there too. All right, so our shrimp here, I'm gonna take, and can you grab me another tongs?
Yeah.
All right, we usually have a bunch of tongs here, but I just got one. I wanna keep our shrimp tongs separate from our chicken tongs here today as we're cooking. Let's set this down, and these are great to have in your kitchen. And so if you don't have a set of tongs, but maybe you have one in your grill kit, if you have not broken out your grill yet this year, it's Minnesota, most of us already have. That one day in February was beautiful. And so you can take and steal stuff from your grill kit too. If you have a wok at home, I would make this in my wok at home. Absolutely you could. All right, so we're gonna take here, and I've got my heat on medium high on this gas burner, which would be probably like, if your electric burner goes from 1 to 10, you're looking at about a 6 or a 7 on your electric burner. And I'm gonna take, and then once I get them all covered up, I'm gonna kind of move them over to one side. And in a wok, you would move them out to the edges and cook in the middle. I'm gonna just move them all over to one edge, and I'm gonna start adding on our vegetables here. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add in the vegetables that need time to cook the longest, and that is our onion pieces, and also our carrots. Now these are cold, and this pan is hot, but they are gonna cool down that oil enough that you may need to turn your heat up a little bit. If you notice that it stops sizzling, you gotta add that heat back in there. All right, and at this point is when I can start to sauce my chicken right in the pan too. So the first thing I'm gonna go for is soy sauce. And so this is just like Pokemon soy sauce, use whatever soy sauce you want. And we're gonna take and we're gonna open that up. And I'm just gonna pour about 2 tablespoons of soy sauce on the chicken. And this is your house now, this is your restaurant. So you can add whatever you like as far as like, taste your food as you go, always. Be tasting, as long as you're not tasting raw chicken. Another alternative to soy sauce is liquid aminos. This is a great like salty, briny, umami flavor that we're gonna add in there. So soy sauce has both the salty and the sour flavors. The other thing I'm gonna add is honey, and that's gonna give us the sweet flavor to our sauce. And it's also gonna balance out the heat when we add the heat in there. So I'm gonna add probably about a tablespoon of honey in there, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, and I'm gonna just kind of wiggle that around in that chicken. And I'm gonna take our carrots and I'm gonna get those going here on this side. Also, here we go. And if you don't have honey, you could use brown sugar. It's very, very good. I cook with a lot of brown sugar when I'm cooking Asian food. You can also take and you can cook with just regular sugar. Use it like as a condiment, the way you would add salt and pepper to other dishes. Use sugar when you're cooking with Asian food. All right, our shrimp is beautiful. It's white, it's opaque, it's done. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn that burner off, and I'm gonna take and we're just gonna use our tongs and set that over here on a plate so we can incorporate that into our dish. Now there's nothing that says that we cannot use chicken and shrimp in a dish either. You can use multiple proteins in your dish, that's totally fine. And so we go put that in there. And then with my hot pan, I'm not gonna stick it right in the sink, I'm just gonna put it over on another burner that we're not gonna use. And I'm gonna put that there. And we gotta stir that up. Stir fry, stir fry, stir fry. All right, so our carrots have been in there about 2 to 3 minutes and they're thin, so they're going. So now what I'm gonna do to this mix is I'm gonna add all the other stuff that I'm not gonna use as a garnish. So I'm gonna take and I'm gonna add in our long pieces of peppers and those carrot ribbons that are not gonna take very much long time to cook. And then the white or light green parts of our green onion are gonna go in there and get tossed in the pan too. Grab the biggest pan you have in your house. This is a pretty common sized pan for a pan that I would have in my house. If you have a larger pan, go nuts. Grab the biggest pan. Have fun with it on your burner. Grab a big pan. And I'm just gonna coat all of this stuff in here. And again, added a bunch of cold stuff, which tells me the sizzle is dying down. So I gotta crank the heat back up again until I get that nice, good stir fry sizzle going again. We're gonna add that in there. Already, this is looking beautiful. With all of those colors that we're adding in there. We've got like a full rainbow of peppers and green onions and the chicken and the sauce. And so the salty, the sour, the sweet is in there. Another thing I'm gonna add is we're gonna add some ginger and we're gonna add some lime juice and some lime zest in here. Ginger, if you have the full piece, is a pain in the booty to peel. And so, my trick is the spoon. Like totally a tablespoon. There's like nothing more exciting than this. And I'm gonna take here and I'm just gonna peel off the peel. And what helps with this, as opposed to using a peeler, is that it gets over all like the knobbly bits on the ginger, and it allows you to kind of have just the pieces that you want that are on here. And so once I get kind of a surface that I can grate, I'm gonna take my microplane. If you don't have a microplane, you can use a box grater or a cheese grater, whatever you got in your house. And I'm just gonna take and I'm gonna rub it on the top of here. And I'm gonna do the equivalent. They always say a thumb size, which is like probably like
weird,
a square
right?
inch
Yeah.
cube. But like my thumb is not a normal size thumb. And I don't feel like that is not enough ginger for a normal person. And so for me, it's 2 thumb sizes. But I would say like an inch cubed is kind of what you're gonna end up grating off of here. And some of it is falling in, but most of it is gonna end up on the back of this. And so I'm just gonna take my wooden spoon and I'm gonna whack that ginger into there. And if you're using like jarred, fresh grated ginger, or like a paste, I would say probably about a tablespoon of ginger is kind of what you ultimately want to add into there. That's probably about a teaspoon for right now. We'll add a little bit more later. And then I've got those flavors in there. Ooh, that smells really good.
So Mary,
All right.
one of the things I noticed is that you haven't added any salt and pepper at this point. All you've done is soy sauce, right? For
Yes.
like adding the
Yeah, so
saltiness
the
to it.
salt in this dish, the base of the salt in this dish is going to be soy sauce. We'll taste the sauce afterward and add traditional salt and pepper at that point. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a lime and I'm going to zest the outside lime. When you zest a lime, only to the white part here and not through the white part. The outside is the zesty essence of the lime. The white part tastes like cough medicine. Not good. It's very bitter and not the kind of bitter we want to incorporate into what we're doing either. I love like Southern Asian food, and so at my house I have fish sauce. So if you like make pad thai, or you've made pad thai in like the last 3 months, and you're like, what am I going to do with the rest of this fish sauce? I would put about a teaspoon of fish sauce in here too, with stuff that is in my house.
But I'm not a big fan of fish sauce, so she's not
So
going
I'm
to
not
put
gonna
it
use
in there.
today. I'm incorporating all of the flavor profiles of the Way Pool Cooking School here. All right, so we've got that in there. Ooh, it's starting
That
to
smells
smell
so fresh and yummy right
really,
now.
Really, really good. And the sizzle is there, which is great. I'm also going to take and I'm going to grab a clean non-chicken knife here. And I'm going to take and I am going to cut this lime up and I'm going to squeeze it. So because I'm going to squeeze it, I want it soft. And so this is where like you can relieve a little stress. Not that we have any of that.
Yeah,
these
none
days
of that
at all.
going on right
And
now.
just kind of like stress ball it out or roll it or
Or put it in the microwave, I've
yeah, I
seen
was gonna
too.
say, one of my mom's tips, since she's watching, one of my mom's tips is to put it in the microwave for a little bit. All right, and I'm gonna take and I'm just gonna cut this into 4 wedges so that I can squeeze the lemon juice easier. And then I might also use some of the wedges for like a garnish on the plate here in a little bit too. All right, so I'm gonna take half this lime and I'm gonna squeeze the juice from half the lime into the stir fry. I'm also gonna take some of this juice and I'm gonna squeeze it directly onto our shrimp to help add a citrus pop to the shrimp that's in the dish.
And if you don't have a lime laying around, but you got a lemon, use a lemon. And if you have orange juice is a great addition for something you could use for this too.
See, I've totally,
Yeah, you have.
I've totally trained her on the orange juice that I add to everything. And so it's definitely a way cool, not so secret. Orange juice is great. The other thing, if you don't have honey, another trick of what I use at my house is orange marmalade. You can add in, so that gives you the orange flavors and the sugar flavors you need to do this. Our sauce is thickening up right in the pan, and so I'm gonna turn that down to medium. If your sauce is not thickening, or like, oh my gosh, I added way too much liquid, it's so wet, it looks like soup, do not panic. There's a fix for everything. All you gotta do is take about a tablespoon of cornstarch and a little cold water and a cup, dump that cold water and cornstarch into your sauce, stir it up, bring it to the boil, and it'll instantly thicken up the stir fry inside of your sauce that you've got going on here. Okay, now we're ready to add the fresh stuff and we're ready to plate our dish. And so what I've got here on our dinner time chop challenge is I'm gonna take our stir fry and I'm gonna pop that right in the middle of the plate. And as you can see from this pan size, this is clearly like dinner for four. Like absolutely with all of these wonderful flavors. And then whatever starch you'd want to pair it with, as far as like rice or noodles or things like that. Unlike the Real Chop show that has commercial breaks, and the chefs that are cooking on that show, are not talking the whole time. I did not have time to like throw some noodles in some water. Rice noodles are great though because they do cook and they're like you put them in boiling water, 2 minutes, pull them out, incorporate them into your dish. And so now I'm gonna take, and I've got some cilantro here. And this is another great job for little fingers, and it also makes them feel really special because like you can make them your expediters. They're the ones that plate the dishes. You can just take scissors and cut your cilantro right on top of that dish. There. And then I'm gonna take my lime wedge and I'm gonna set that down in case anybody likes any extra lime. And then we're gonna make it look really fancy. And we're gonna put some of those green onion tops right on the top of the dish. And so that, my friends, is our if I'm not talking the whole time chop challenge with what we have at the Wakefield Cooking School. Now, if you were going to make it with the shrimp, you would, instead of adding these vegetables into your chicken, you would add it into your shrimp, and then that would be ready to go. Or, because shrimp is like, everybody loves the shrimp, I'm going to take and I'm going to put the shrimp on the dish so they look like the stars of the dish, and stick those in there on top with our little green onions there. And then finally, a little bit of our black and toasted sesame seeds. And the last thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna clean up the edge of my plate. Not only does it make it look nicer, but it ensures that you're not putting your thumb in your food as you're carrying it to the table. And this, of all times, is the greatest time to remember that like, you can sit down, use real plates, and have dinner with your family. Break out that package of chopsticks that you've been saving from all of your Chinese food orders that you've been collecting at home. That's a shout out to Stu. Mail me your extra chopsticks. And then sit down and enjoy food with your family. This is also a cool thing to kind of bring up the fact that like experiencing food and cultures at the dinner table together is a real way to open up the conversation of like, my gosh, like where does soy sauce come from? And these questions come up naturally, like how is fish sauce made? Google those things and incorporate it into what you're doing. And so it's a really kind of fun way to incorporate if you're doing it as part of like a STEM related cooking portion at your home, having kids measure out things and do the math. Take a recipe that's maybe for 6 or 12 and make your math whiz, cut it in half so that you only make enough food for what you need. Or have them double the recipe so that you have food to eat for leftovers later. So there's lots of cool ways that cooking at home can enhance all of those fun things, creativity, artwork, and everything like that. Now, before we wrap up here today, because it's been about 45 minutes and I said that was the end, Lynn has something really, really super exciting to share with you, and so I'm gonna let her take over.
Hi, everybody. As you know, as a small business owner here and everywhere, we're all having to try and reinvent what we're doing since we can't hold classes here at the school anymore, which we will be coming back. We're trying to think of things that we can do to help you keep your kids busy at home. So what we've done is we have created some baking kits that you can stop by and pick up. And we've got one done, and we've got about 4 more that we've got planned. But what it'll be is a kit to make specific decorating things. So the first one, I'll kind of just flip the camera here if I can do that right. Here we go. You can see right here that these are the kind of things that would be in your, these would be the things that would be inside your kit here. So what we've got is we'll give you a recipe so you can make your own cupcakes. We're going to turn those into pineapple cupcakes, and we'll show you in the kit how to make that happen. You're going to get some piping bags, some melting chocolates, and then there's going to be another recipe on how to make a mermaid cupcake. And we're also going to be doing some undersea chocolate covered Oreos. That all of this is to help all of us maybe feel a little better and think about vacations and fun things that we're kind of missing right now at this time of year. So look for this information that we will be sending to you via email, and we're going to post it on Facebook and Instagram, so you'll be able to do it. So the kits are going to be available to purchase. You just call us to order them, and then we're going to have you pick them up here. We'll meet you out right outside the door to hand them to you. You don't have to come in the school, and it'll be a great activity for you and the kids to do together. Thank you so much for joining us in the kitchen. And ooh.
Here's one last, the one last addition that I can't, if I make Asian food, does not end unless I put my rooster sauce on top of it. And so I just drizzled a little tiny bit of sriracha sauce to add the heat to this dish, which is like the last flavor component in the dish here. So we got a little bit of sriracha right on top of that dish too.
Awesome. Thank you so much for cooking with all of us, Mary.
Thank you so much for cooking with all of us. Way cool world out there on Facebook. Please enjoy, share the video with your friends. We can't wait to share more stuff with you. Have a great Stir Friday.